Super Nintendo Entertainment System was the best-selling console in the 16-bit era of console gaming. It was released in 1991 by Nintendo with the goal of regaining the company's market share due to the TurboGrafx-16 and the Sega Genesis being released some years prior. The SNES originally sold for a price of $199 and had a great selling point due to the fact that it came bundled with Super Mario World. The SNES features a very sleek and lightweight design with the game slot, power, eject, and reset buttons on the top of the console. On the front we have the power indicator light and controller ports for 2 players. Moving to the back we have ports for multi-out, RF out, and AC. And on the bottom of the console we have an extension port, which allowed for accessories to be added to improve the console's functionality. The Japanese SNES, or the Super Famicom, got the Satellaview, which was a satellite modem that allowed users to download gaming news and demos that were released in installments. Nintendo was also working with Sony and later Philips to develop a CD peripheral for the SNES. Nintendo later decided to cancel both of these contracts. Sony then used what they had developed with Nintendo to create the first PlayStation. And as for Philips, well, I could tell you that story, but it would probably be more effective if I just show it to you. So take a look.
Gee, it sure is boring around here.
My boy, this piece is what all true warriors strive for.
I just wonder what Ganon's up to.
The princess is now a permanent guest at one of my 7 Koopa hotels. I dare you to find her if you can. We gotta find the princess. And you gotta help us. If you need instructions on how to get through the hotels, check out the enclosed instruction book.
So yeah, Philips, as you can probably tell, was given permission to publish games in both the Mario and the Zelda franchises, which resulted in them creating some of the worst Mario and Zelda games of all time on the CDI. These games were so bad that Nintendo does not acknowledge their existence to this day. Anyway, now let's move on to the controller. The controller for the Super Nintendo is very similar to the original NES controller. It does, however, bring a few new changes. For one, the design is more ergonomic as opposed to the NES's square design. This makes it a bit more comfortable to hold. It features 2 extra action buttons marked X and Y, which are concave here on the North American version, but on the Japanese version they are the same as the A and B buttons. It also has 2 shoulder buttons marked L and R. The cartridges for the SNES are also very similar to its NES counterpart. Although they are about half the size, they come in the same color scheme, and connect to the console in the same way. The SNES has a very large library of games, mainly because of its really long lifespan. According to Wikipedia, there were 784 official releases made for the Super Nintendo, with 251 being exclusive to North America and 63 being exclusive to Europe. Nintendo's idea was to create a multitude of co-processor chips that would allow the console to perform functions that the main CPU could not handle alone. Some of these chips included the Super FX, which was used for rendering polygons and advanced 2D effects, the CX4 chip, which was used in Mega Man games to allow wireframe transformations, and the Super Accelerator or SA1 chip. This chip contained a lot of enhancements, such as improving the clock speed and RAM of the console. All of these co-processing chips combined with Mode 7, which allowed for perspective background effects, allowed the Super Nintendo to stay competitive all the way into the 32-bit era of console gaming, despite the fact that it was only a 16-bit console. The Super Nintendo also had a ton of other peripherals, both official and third-party. One official accessory worth mentioning is the Super Game Boy. This device allowed for Game Boy games to be playable on the Super Nintendo. Because the Super Nintendo did not have the capability to natively play Game Boy games, the Super Game Boy actually contains most of the same hardware that is inside of an actual Game Boy. Another third-party accessory is the Game Genie. The Game Genie allows for cheat codes to be used within an SNES game, which let users add abilities or access content that was not intended to be accessible by the game developers. The Game Genie worked very well up until the release of the Super FX chip, when games using this chip could not connect to the Game Genie. Right around a year after the release of the Nintendo 64, Nintendo decided to create a lighter and more streamlined version of the Super Nintendo. This version of the console would be targeted at consumers who did not want to spend the extra money on the Nintendo 64 and wanted access to a larger library of inexpensive games. It was released on October 20th, 1997 and was officially called the Snes Model 101. It sold for a price of $99.99, which was $100 less than the price of the original Super Nintendo. Nintendo had a very similar approach with the NES Model 101, which was released in 1993 for the same reasons. Overall, the Super Nintendo brought a lot of new features to the gaming industry. It helped to regain Nintendo's market share and lives on today as the best-selling console of the 16-bit era. So I just want to know, what do you guys think of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System? Be sure to let me know down in the comments below, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.